We are now extremely close to stablecoins being fully regulated within the US, and I do believe that this is going to be affecting the global stablecoin market in a big way because I do suspect that every single nation is going to follow the US's lead when it comes to regulating crypto. We're actually starting to see this with a lot of other nations following the US's pro crypto stance, which I'm actually very excited about. But I want to really address this, and I actually want to talk about it more so with what the US Treasury is doing and how it affects RLUSD. So sit back, relax. Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So on May 2nd, we got a big update, and that is US Senate moves towards action on stablecoin bill. Now, this is the Genius bill, as you guys are probably all aware of. We have the US Senate may soon vote on legislation that would establish US regulations for the issuers of stablecoins, also marking the first time the chamber has considered a major crypto bill. The first of many, I'm suspecting. But here we have Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a South Dakota Republican, started the ball rolling to fast track the guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins, the Genius Act, which is the Senate's version of the two similar bills rolling through both chambers of Congress. The House of Representatives is expected to follow closely behind on its own voting. Thune's move to expedite the bill is meant to limit delays and floor action in order to get it done more quickly. It's so far unclear precisely when the Senate vote will happen, but an earlier vote on the effort in the Senate Banking Committee had approved it with a wide bipartisan majority of 18-6. The House Financial Services Committee also advanced its similar bill in April as well. Now, we don't know exactly when this is going to be fully voted on, but I do suspect that this is going to get passed through pretty quickly. A lot of people are suspecting by the end of August. I think that would be a safe time frame because, again, that still gives us about 3 months to really kind of get this going. But also stablecoins within that 3-month time period could grow significantly. They're already a massive piece of not just crypto now, but traditional finance and the US Treasury market. But outside of this, we also have over here from Subjective Views, and this is when it comes to federal law for stablecoins, they're using the New York Department of Financial Services existing framework as the blueprint. This is very important to focus on. I'm actually going to be analyzing this and addressing why it is very important to focus on, but check this out.
What do you make of this? I mean, in addition to all those points, you could say there is a chance for it to make the payment system a lot cheaper in the United States too, in terms of peer-to-peer payments. But how far does this go now that the gates are kind of being open to this industry? And does this lead to a lot of new questions about how the financial industry evolves, Patrick?
No, I think without sound law, you're not going to have the most significant players in the world of finance use these products. They want clarity, and they don't want clarity for a term or through the midterm. They want clarity to build a business, and you're not going to go spend major capex on building something for on a temporary basis. That doesn't make a whole lot of business sense. So, what's happening in the world of stablecoins is a firm desire to get federal law that's sound, that's modeled after the New York State approach. I think the Genius Act and the Stable Act are two very good products. I think there's a lot of decisions there that are major touch points. And how do you deal with the domestics? How do you deal with the international stablecoins? And having sensible regulation in a way that's similar to how we regulate international banks versus domestic banks. And I think there are reasonable decisions that can be made there on a regulatory structure on stablecoins. But there's more work to be done there, but a great deal of interest across the world of finance to deploy these products.
Yeah, I mean, what is still uncertain to you? And you've given such clear timelines in terms of how you think the market structure bill, for example, will be played out. Similar to that type of timeline guidance, what can you say in terms of the future of stablecoin clarity in the US?
I think the Genius Act and the Stable Act are 75% similar policy, maybe 85%. similar policy. I think you have a couple things that are quite sticky on how you deal with it. Who is the appropriate regulator? I'm sorry, what is the appropriate regulatory agency, not who? And a lot of the decisions we made last Congress were based off of who actually sat in those regulatory seats, driven by politics. I think we can be more, this Congress can be much more methodical about that, and get the proper regulator for a product at the federal level that stands and competes with state regulated products. So much more competition among the regulators, a lot more choice out of this.
So yeah, I mean, basically what Patrick McHenry is addressing here is the fact that, we're starting to see a lot of progress made here. And a lot of these agencies now are starting to counter each other and really kind of get the ball rolling. And that's exactly what we needed to see happen. We needed to see, for an example, like the CFTC challenging the SEC, or, these other regulators getting involved to really kind of start streamlining things. And that's exactly what's actually happening right now. Now, as it comes to the New York Department of Financial Services, the reason why they're using their existing framework for this, blueprint is because the New York Department of Financial Services is extremely strict. Now, on top of this, we go to ROUSD because, again, Ripple is in a very unique, position right now. Everyone is talking about Circle. Everyone's talking about Tether, but nobody's really talking about ROUSD in a sense of how regulated and compliant it actually is. Back in December, we know that Brad Garlinghouse confirmed that ROUSD is fully approved by the New York Department of Financial Services. This is very rare, okay? We even have down here that an approval by the New York Department of Financial Services has another benefit. The regulator is rather fussy about which blockchains can be used by companies that hold its trust charter. So far, it has only approved Ethereum and Solana, which are used by Paxos, which issues the PayPal USD stablecoin and its own Paxos dollar. Stablecoin issuer Circle is not a trust company and hence not subject to the same restrictions regarding blockchains. In other words, with the New York Department of Financial Services authorization, it's not just Ripple that can issue regulated tokens on the XRP ledger, but it makes it much easier for others to do so as well. This is very exciting. So when we think about this, we look at the next line. Given Ripple's institutional focus, that matters. While Circle's USDC is generally considered safe and regulated, a lack of a trust charter is a weakness from an institutional perspective. And also the fact that we're starting to see, law for stablecoins utilizing the New York Department of Financial Services existing framework as the blueprint for this. It also puts ROUSD and Ripple in a completely different league of its own. This is extremely bullish. Now, on top of that, we go over here. Stablecoins on track for $2 trillion market cap by 2028. This is actually coming from the US Treasury. The US Treasury is talking about this. Stablecoin adoption could accelerate global demand for US Treasury bills, the Treasury said. And we have over here, big shout to Matthew Lin, the US Department of Treasury getting ready for stablecoin implementation. Now, this is actually a part of a much bigger breakdown that Smoke Dog did post. Now, I'm not saying that, Matthew stole this or anything like that, because again, Matthew, isn't typically one to do that. I'm just really kind of aligning both of these posts because we have here from Smoke Dog, just in the US Department of Treasury presentation released 8 hours ago, acknowledged ROUSD alongside established giants like USDC and USDT. Despite being launched in late 2024, ROUSD is already receiving acknowledgement from the most influential government in the world. Major. And here we actually have from the US Department of Treasury, it's titled Digital Money. And this is actually regarding the Genius Act and all of the major regulatory moves happening around stablecoins within the US. Over here, we actually have the full breakdown. This is where we see the executive summary. I could actually open this up real quick in a new tab just so that you guys can see. Here we have stablecoin market overview. They just really kind of address what's happening. They're actually looking at a $2 trillion market cap by 2028, which is a massive jump in 3 years, considering the fact that right now we're at about like 230 billion. And they're talking about how evolving market dynamics, specifically regulation, is actually going to accelerate the overall market cap of stablecoins and the growth behind it. And we have US regulatory and dollar dynamics. Again, pretty much just highlighting what I just mentioned. And then we also have what are the potential impacts on bank deposits? What are the potential consequences for the treasury market? What are the potential implications on monetary supply? And then how could this potentially affect existing market structures? But what's crazy about this is them preparing for the implementation and integration of stablecoins within the treasury market, within the US Treasury, which is just crazy to see. But this is something that I have been hyper focused on for a bit of time. And I even confirmed it on multiple occasions that yes, RLUSD and Ripple and technically even XRP will be included in this plan. Because we also know that Ripple has highlighted the fact that when you take a stablecoin and you transact with it on the XRP ledger, it is extremely efficient compared to additional networks, including even Ethereum. But it's just crazy to see these types of, documents from the US Treasury, because it's confirming what not only I have been saying for years now, but the entire XRP community. We've been talking about how this is going to lead to one of the most fundamental changes of money ever. And we're now there. We're at that point in time, and it's only going to continue to accelerate more and more and more as we do start to see, these regulatory paths cleared, especially in the US, because we got to focus on what the US does. Every nation is focused on what the US does. I talked about this even with Mika, for an example, right? Mika was going to accelerate the US market. It did. A lot of people actually overlooked this, but Mika went live back in, arguably it's like about 2023. It was announced, and then 2024. By the way, it was ongoing for many years prior to 2023, but throughout 2024, it started to get released during the summer. It was a big update about how they're pushing Mika into live effect. A lot of exchanges were actually delisting Tether at that time. And then towards the end of December is when it fully took effect. But what we got during that time from November onward, because of the new, admin, was an accelerated shift to make sure that the US is moving forward on this and aligning with the EU. This is no, different compared to like the internet, for an example. The EU was one of the first movers. The US started to accelerate and become a leader. And then after that, every other nation fell in line. I do believe that that's exactly what's happening here with crypto, with stablecoins. And I'm very excited. I'm very bullish on a lot of these utility-based projects and a lot of the things surrounding them. In this case, RLUSD. A lot of people still don't understand how RLUSD is going to be bullish for the XRP ledger or for XRP. But you got to understand that when you have something like a stablecoin being transacted 24/7, 365, and you're seeing billions to trillions of dollars flooding through that network every single day, even if it's just yearly. Imagine if the XRP ledger saw well over $1 trillion plus move through it in one single year. That would significantly impact not just the value of the network, but also the volume moving through it. This is very beneficial for the underlying gas token, and in this case, it would be XRP because it is the thing that's settling those transactions, which means more XRP burned, more XRP used equals more volume and value pushed through that underlying digital assets, which would affect the value of the asset. So, we really look at what Tether has done for Bitcoin in this case as an example, and then we look at what, RLUSD could do for XRP. Ripple is already making a lot of big moves happen already surrounding the stablecoin, which again gets me very excited for the future. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.